Hello, everyone, and happy Wednesday. I am excited and looking forward to this interview today. As you guys are joining me, please excuse us. I am trying to get Derick to join us. So, for a few moments, I am going to be helping him join the call. So, just bear with us for just a second. As you join me, come in and say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. If you are on my YouTube channel, if you are watching from the Facebook group, or if you are joining me through LinkedIn. This is how this interview is being broadcast. And I just want to make sure if you guys have any issues hearing me or anything, let me know while we wait for Derick to join us for the call. So let me look into this and see. Let's see. I sent them the link just a few seconds ago. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Derick, I'm in the call. Let me see. Let's double check. Let's see. I have one comment here. Watching from LinkedIn. Hi, Dr. Sami. How are you? It's been a long time. Thank you so much for joining us. And I am trying to. There is Derick. Hi. Check on your audio. Just we have someone, Dr. Schuster is watching us from LinkedIn. As people join us, please let us know. Let me see. Let me add you to the stream. There you are. How are
Hello.
you?
I'm great. How about you?
I'm doing awesome. I'm excited and grateful for the opportunity to pick your brain today. How are you doing?
I'm excited. Yeah, it's been a little while since I've done kind of a Q&A like this and a chance to really talk directly to people. So really looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much on behalf of myself and my audience. Thank you for taking the time to answer our questions for today. So, for everyone who is joining us or maybe watching the replay, I am here today with Derick Van Ness. He is a tax and wealth strategist, and I have been privileged to get to know him. And I asked him. I said, "Would you be willing and take some time to just answer some questions for us, right?" And he
Yeah.
generously decided to do it, and I'm really excited. And so, just to give reference and for everyone to know who you are, I have your bio right in front of me, so I'm just going to go through it. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I may miss some things. So, Derick is a stack and wealth tax and wealth strategist for dentists, doctors, and other small business owners who are great at what they do, aren't we all? But are not well versed in the question when it comes to taxes and building wealth. Don't we all struggle with that? And so he has the ability to make complex topics easy to grasp, and all of his clients are constantly appreciating his ability to understand the unique needs of being an entrepreneur. So Derick is also passionate about helping people get to understand the money game figured out so that they can begin living their biggest life as soon as possible. Please. This is so important. And so he deeply believes each person has something unique and valuable to contribute to the world. And his mission, I love this, is to eradicate money as a barrier to his clients, creating a life that they adore. I'm going to repeat that one more time. His mission is to help eradicate money as a barrier for all of us, creating a life that we adore. Thank you so much, Derick, for joining us today, and for this opportunity to again ask you these questions.
Yeah, I'm just really happy to be here, Maritza. I love to share this information with people and help them to, make better decisions, learn about things. I believe that once somebody like learns something new and their brain stretches, like it never goes back to the same shape. So even if all the ideas that we talked about today don't apply to you, you're going to hopefully think differently, come up with strategies, ideas, possibilities that you wouldn't have had before this interview. And that's really my goal, is that you become more aware of what's possible, because especially in the tax and financial world, a lot of people's perspective is very narrow, and there are actually so many possibilities out there that people just aren't aware of, especially for our doctor and dental clients who, really overpay on taxes, and they're just totally unaware of what can I do to reduce those. So we're going to spend a lot of time on that today.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. So, speaking of that, we structure a lot of the questions around, if I'm already an established practice, if I've been
Hmm.
practicing maybe for a year, 2, 3 years, it doesn't matter where you are, but every dentist or every business owner, we tend to have and put so many things. First and foremost, we take on a huge risk by starting our businesses. And
Yep.
a lot of times, and I'm speaking for myself, and I can, as I work with clients, they relate as well. You take on a massive amount of loans in order to support starting your business, and you
Hmm.
stop making contributions, and you kind of take all of your cash and you try to just put it into this risk or that is rewarding. And so you start your business, and luckily, if you're working with someone that helps you get all of your ducks in a row, you're going to find yourself in a position where you're going to start making money faster, right? And I've had
Hmm.
this, and I think one of our conversations was around the subject that when I started doing consulting, I was very great at getting my doctors up and running, cover their break even, and start generating, being profitable. And I had one of my first clients say to me, Maritza, I paid over $100,000 in taxes in my first year in business. What could I have done better to help my client be able to, again, create that sense of we don't know what we don't know. I didn't have the
Hmm.
resources or someone like you at the time that I can go to and make an introduction to make sure that as your office begins to grow, you want to associate yourself with someone that is going to help you create a strategy short term so that you can better position yourself for the long run. So I have a couple of questions here, and my first question to you is, how does a dentist know if they have a high level tax pro or not, and how can you make a relationship with your tax pro more effective?
Yeah. So this is a great question, because I get asked probably, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times a week for, I need a better CPA, right? Well, what does that really mean? To me, what that means is people feel like they're overpaying taxes, and they feel like they may not be getting what they were hoping to get from their CPA in the way of tax advice, right? Like the thing I hear a lot is, well, my CPA told me just get used to paying more taxes because you're making more money, right? And that's a really disempowering thought, right? Because when we look at the politicians, we look at the Jeff Bezoses of the world, these guys, how are they in a 24% tax bracket, but you as a dentist are in a 40, 45% tax bracket? Like that doesn't seem right, because we know Bezos is at one point the richest man in the world. So what's he doing different, right? And what that really comes down to is this: most people's expectation of their CPA, I think, is a little unfair to CPAs. And here's what I
Um,
mean. Like
okay.
CPAs, they help you prepare your taxes and get ready and make your payments and be efficient in how you do that. They make sure you get the right write-offs. They make sure you depreciate things. They make sure you hopefully pay yourself properly. But with a few exceptions, a lot of the really big tax breaks out there are related to using tax advantaged investments, using other kinds of tools, insurance tools, entity structuring tools, a lot of stuff that CPAs just don't do, right? Like they do their part, but a lot of what a dentist needs is over and above that. And the other thing we want to realize too, just to cut the CPAs a little bit of a break here, is for most CPAs, you're like a 1% client. They work with a lot of people who have a W 2 and make $50,000 to $100,000 a year. They work with a lot of people who maybe even if they have their own business, make 50, 100, maybe $150,000 a year. But for those people, taxes aren't nearly at the same rates as they are for you. Like the really big number where in the tax code where your income jumps is as a married couple, it's $340,000. You go from the 24% tax bracket up to the 32% tax bracket. So it's a really big jump. And then if you have a state tax, usually that jumps as well, somewhere in that category. If you're just so you know, if you're single, it's half of that. So instead of 340, it's 170,000. You jump into those big tax brackets. So for a lot of people, at that point, you're paying 32% federal, plus 5, 6, 7% state, plus a couple of percent for Social Security. So you're really pushing about 40% taxes. And that's where things get really, really expensive. Yeah. Yeah. And if you're in California or New York, it's even worse, right? So you want to be aware of the fact that those are really important numbers. And if you're making that kind of income, you're just an exception to your CPA. 99% of his clients or her clients don't have that need. So a lot of them just haven't gotten really good and figured out the resources of like how to serve someone in your particular group. Yeah, and we've really, because we've been working with so many doctors and dentists, there's like the people who work with the super high net worth, right? The people who make 5 million plus a year. And then there's a bunch of people who work with mom and pop who have W-2s who make 150,000 and less. But we find most of our dentists make between, 250 and about $2 million a year, somewhere in there. There's just not a lot of people who serve that group, right? Some people serve the masses and some people serve the elites. A lot of our dentists are kind of in that middle ground where certain things from up here apply and certain things from down here apply, but a lot of them aren't getting advice that's suitable to where they're at. And so I think what they're expecting from their CPA is maybe a little more than what a CPA does and is prepared to do. But one thing you can do with your CPA is you want them to be proactive. But what I've seen is even with the best CPAs, honestly, you need to take that on yourself and be proactive. So here's a little tip for you, something you can absolutely use. Before, like when you're meeting with your CPA, I think you should meet with them at least 3 to 4 times a year.
Okay.
Even if you're not sure what you're going to talk about, just the fact that you show up and you talk with them, they're going to ask you some questions.
Send them the message. I'm serious about my numbers, right?
Right. I'm serious. I'm paying attention. I actually want to be proactive. Most of them want to be proactive. They just have 500 to 1,000 clients, right? Mm-hmm. So, and they don't have something like hygiene to bring people in. So you've got to almost plan your own hygiene visits. And the way you do that is when you're sitting in front of your CPA, whether it's on Zoom or in their office, before you leave that meeting, set the next meeting, put it on the calendar with them 2, 3, 4 months down the road. A little, usually the second half of the year, there's a lot more tax planning than the first half, but you set that meeting with them. Mm-hmm. They want to meet with you. Most of them really do want to do a great job. It's just hard for them to remember when they've got so much going on. So you take that on yourself. Just that one little thing will transform your relationship with your CPA and with your own awareness around your taxes, because you're going to show up and be like, I don't know what we're supposed to talk about. And you're going to look at your numbers and they're going to ask you questions and you're going to ask them questions and you're going to at least be in the conversation, which can't do anything but help. So that's the first thing.
So that's a really good tip, and I took notes, and I want to make sure everyone watching is also doing the same. But this leads me to the next question. I think that we have to create a difference between what is tax optimization and how big of a difference can tax optimization make for a practicing dentist, a practice owner.
Yeah, well, so if someone wanted to be crazy aggressive, I mean, you can get your taxes way, way, way down by moving money around, spending money, doing things, right? But what we see that's like, by and large, sort of using the 80-20 rule. For 20% of your effort, we can get 80% of the results. For a lot of our clients, we can take you from a 40 to 45% tax bracket. And with just a little bit of effort and a little bit of work and education, I would say we can keep you closer to a 20 to 25% tax bracket.
Right.
So take an extra 15-ish, let's say, percent of your income. So if you're
Okay.
making $500,000 a year, that's probably $75,000 that I think is realistic with some planning. If you get really aggressive about it and you start doing multi-year planning, because most people, it's really funny when they think about their business, they're thinking 3 years, they're thinking 5 years. When it comes to tax planning, they're like
Year by year.
1 year, one at a time, right? And the truth is, you have to do some of that, just like with your business. You got to take care of immediate cash flow and immediate needs, but really making good long-term decisions, doing things this year that can benefit you in future years, those kinds of things really start to add up. So multi-year planning can be a
Mm,
really big part of that. But I would say cutting your taxes by 10, 15, 20% is very realistic with some planning for someone who's in those higher tax brackets. If you only make 200,000 a year, your taxes aren't as bad, so it's harder to keep them a little bit lower,
I see.
right? Like the impact's not quite as big. But anybody, I would say, over that 340, 350 mark, it
Okay.
really starts to kick into where we can make some major differences. And for you, I mean, what if you had an extra 50 or $75,000 after taxes every single year? Where I come from, that pays for a lot of college, a lot of retirement, a lot of boats, a lot of second homes, depending on what people are into, a lot of charity, a lot of taking care of your church, depending on what you want those dollars to go to work with. But the difference is pretty massive, especially if you put some of that money to work.
This is great. So for everyone watching, first tip we got today, you have to schedule meetings with your CPAs, even if you're showing up just to say hello, just to get that consistency and the discipline to let
Mhm.
them know I am becoming aware and I want to participate in understanding my numbers. And the second thing takeaway that I have so far is multi-year planning. Do not focus on saving taxes for this year. You have to, the same way that you create long-term goals and planning for
Mhm.
your retirement, for kids to go to college, for buying that boat, for whatever it is that you want to do. You want to start also looking into multi-yearly tax planning. Did I get that right, Derek?
Yes, it needs to be a component, right? Especially when people start getting toward their exit. When
Mm,
you're working on your exit, you need to be thinking 3 to 5 years in advance. You can't show up the year you're going to sell your practice and go, all right, let's do this. I mean, you
I see.
can, you'll just be in a lot worse situation. So, yeah, that's just a good distinction.
So before, I want you to share with us some strategies, right?
Okay.
But before that, what do you feel, in your experience and observation, is the biggest financial mistake business owners are making on the day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I would put it in twofold. The first one is I feel like a lot of business owners, and honestly, the people who are on this call and listening I might be preaching to the choir, but I think your best investment, like we get asked all the time, what's the best investment? What's the best investment? It's you and your business. So I
Mm,
think getting the right team around you, specifically in the beginning, a consultant or someone like what you do, Maritza, or other folks that are out there, the ROI on that kind of knowledge, right? When you help people put systems in place, or when they figure out marketing, or when they figure out operations, or how to hire the right team and build the right culture, the ROI on that, even if they only work with you for a year or two, they get to take that with them the rest of their career. Like that knowledge never goes away. So I think that's the first thing is I see too many people trying to do a bunch of stuff outside of their business, and they're
mm.
kind of like robbing the business to do these other kinds of investments. I think get your business going first. So that's the first mistake I see, especially with younger people. They think the stock market's going to do it or something like that. And the ROI in the stock market is nothing like what you'll get in your business. Okay. So that's the first one. And then the second one is people think that more new patients solves everything. And
Mm.
it's,
Oh my goodness. You're speaking to, I don't know who you're, but you're certainly speaking my language and that of my clients. So this is perfect. Thank you. Continue.
yeah, I think of it like this. You've got this bucket, right? That is your wealth, and you're putting dollars into the bucket. But the bucket has all these holes in it. And so as you're putting money in, it's all falling out of the bottom. Any inefficiencies in taxes, bad decisions, lost employees because your culture is not right, whatever, right? And all you're thinking is, I got to put more money in the bucket, put more money in the bucket, instead of saying, how about if we patch up the bucket so we get to keep a lot more? And that's, you guys are in the put more money in the bucket business and helping them be smarter on the business side. We're in the once you make it, how do you keep it for taxes and not make mistakes and other kinds of things. So, and just being smarter with that money. But I feel like so many people are so focused on top line revenue that they aren't really aware of how much you're keeping, right? So it's not how much you make, it's how much you get to keep that really matters for you and your family. I just think sometimes we forget the ego number is the production number, right? The revenue number. But the number that really impacts your family is that bottom line after you've paid your tax.
Mhm.
What are all the things you've done along the way to keep a little bit more money? And it's like ticks on a clock. One tick doesn't make the difference, but if it's tick, 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 you end up pointing in a completely different direction, and the trajectory of your success is completely different. So I think those are probably the two biggest things that I see that are mistakes.
I can totally relate. I will share this personal story. I have invested when I started my business, I want to say over $100,000 just in coaching and seminars and going here and going there. And I decided I was in the verge of, like, I was in a seminar in a 2-day workshop, and every coaching or seminar that you go to, there's something there for sale, right? And you
Sure.
always feel as a new business owner that the next consultant that it's out there doing it, that they're going to be the next big fix for your business. And
Yeah.
when you start hiring people, it becomes where you have a responsibility for them. Like, your business becomes the vehicle for them to fulfill their personal needs. And but
Hmm.
you're out there as an individual just seeking for more and more help, and just taking, like you said, the money's coming in, but I'm putting it in all these different buckets. So I was in this, the very last time I was just about to hire someone to help me write a book. Like, tell me why in the world do I need to immediately, like, a few years into my business, everybody's writing a book, so I have to be
Hmm.
there, and I have to. And I sat there, and when they gave me the microphone to say about, like, my takeaways, I was just like very blunt and honest about it. I said, I have to go to my, home business, or
Hmm.
my home office, and focus on my team. Like, I
Yeah.
really feel that there's got to be a point where you have to stop over consuming information and
Hmm.
just focus on your business and on your team, and making sure that you put the mask on yourself first and the business first, right? So that's a huge that was a huge lesson for me, and I'm happy that you said it, because more people are going to hear it. Focus on your business, and just, and for the money that comes in, don't think that the more you make, the more you have to spend on other things. And the second one, it's not the number of new patients that are coming in. Like you said, it's one thing for you to get your business up and running, and it's another one for you to make it sustainable and maintain it. I always say, and I preach to this, the first sell is not the most important sell. When the patients are signed up for recare, that's when they have, established themselves, that they trust you, that you've met their needs and their expectations. So there are a lot of clients that are always constantly getting more new patients and more new patients. So those are really good two mistakes that I can relate to some of them, and it's a work in progress, but I think a lot of our audience will relate to that. So thank you for sharing that. Um, so now let's talk about strategies. So,
Hmm.
what are some of the most commonly missed tax opportunities that dentists miss, but that they can definitely use?
Okay, I'm going to talk about two or three here that can easily be applied. And I would say these fall under the category of something your CPA can help you with, right? They're not things outside of that realm. And you may have heard of some of them, but I feel like it's important to cover them, because if I don't, and I assume you've done them,
Hmm.
then we
Hmm.
would be missing the boat here, right? So the first one is a lot of dentists and doctors own their own building. right? And if you own your own building or if you own commercial real estate, there's something you should look into, in my opinion, called cost segregation. Okay,
Cost
so
segregation. Okay.
cost segregation. So here's an easy way to look at it. Real estate, specifically commercial real estate, gets depreciated over 39 and a half years. I don't know who came up with the half thing, but it gets depreciated over, basically 40 years. So you get a little bit every single year and you get to depreciate your building. If you do cost segregation, what happens is you reassess as much of the building as you can. And an engineer comes in and does this, so there's a little cost associated with it. But with cost segregation, they come in, they reassess as many things as they can as equipment. So the walls, the plumbing, the windows, all the build out, all of that stuff that could be removed from the building and it's still a piece of real estate, that gets reclassified and you could depreciate equipment over like 7, 10, 15 years. So you get a lot more depreciation per year, right? And we're still in a phase where there's bonus depreciation in the first year that you put new things in or the first year you do this kind of stuff. So it can kind of double in the first year, but it's, you're not going to get more depreciation over time, but the difference is money now versus money 40 years from now is better, right?
Course.
You can take that money, you can put it to work, you can do things, and you can turn a dollar into many more dollars rather than waiting 40 years from now to get that depreciation. So that's a real simple one. I don't want to go crazy into details, but it's something.
We're going to leave your contact information on the description and everywhere so people can follow the conversation with you. So many questions for a short amount of time.
Yeah, so cost segregation is an easy one. Another one that's out there that is really underused is something that's kind of known as the Augusta rule.
Okay.
And the idea of the Augusta rule is normally there are things that you do, holiday parties, retreats, management meetings, whatever, that you might be using an offsite location for. So a hotel, an event center, you can, or even your home, you can rent your home to your business for these types of events. And the law basically says that you can rent your home out up to 14 days a year. And the rental income that you get for those 14 days is tax-free. So most people don't want to rent their home to a stranger for 14 days a year, although some do. And it could work that way. But if not, if you're using your home for things, or if you could use your home instead of renting that conference room at a hotel or whatever, your business can pay you just like a third-party transaction, right? And you would have a lease in place and the whole thing. And your CPA can help you set this up. Most CPAs, when you bring it up, are aware of it. And you can get some money from the business.
They don't necessarily bring it up to you.
Right.
It's almost like you have to do your own homework and due diligence and bring it to their attention. Because I did miss it. I did apply it last year personally, but the year before I was working with, it was an investment that I made on like some programs where I learned about it and I brought it up to their attention. So I was able to take advantage of that Augusta rule.
Yeah.
But to your point, we have to bring it up to the CPAs because a lot of times they do know, but it's that financial education and awareness that it's really costing us a lot in tax advantages and so on. So yeah, continue.
Yeah, and so like you can do that 14 days a year. Let's say you charge yourself $1,000 a day. That's $14,000 coming into your home tax free. If you're in a 40% tax bracket, it's going to save you, $5,000-$6,000 in taxes. It's not like a game changer, but $5,000 or $6,000 will, pay for some nice hotel rooms or a good little vacation with the family or whatever. Or you can put it to work in your practice and a bunch of other things. But it's something you can do every single year, right? And it doesn't take much extra work, especially if you're already using your home for stuff. This is literally a matter of transferring the money and making doing the paperwork. It's probably an hour's worth of work a year. The third thing that's pretty common is being able to pay your children, right? You can pay your kids up to $12,500 a year, and they don't pay taxes on it. So obviously, if the kids are old enough and they can help around the practice or help you do things for the business, that's a no-brainer. But even for younger kids, the way that you can pay them is you can use their likeness and use them in your social media. Let them be part of your brand as a brand ambassador. Use them in your social media, put them in your videos, put them on your website. Use their cuteness, right? That's a real asset, right? It makes you happy.
Yes, yes.
And people love to see
More
that.
attractive to your audience as well.
Absolutely. So they know you're a real person and that you've got the same kind of values that they have. So if that's part of your brand, that's a way where you can get young children involved in the business. Just put them on payroll. Once again, talk to your CPA, make sure this is appropriate for you. But that could be a lot of money. And then let the kids pay for their own dance lessons, their own football, their own music classes, their own costumes, their own school supplies and clothes. Like they can pay for their own stuff, and it's with tax-free dollars into the household, right? So, or schooling as they get older, or other kinds of things. A lot of people use this in conjunction with other investment or growth opportunities for their kids as well. So, there's a lot of different ways to use that. But once again, if you've got 3 kids or 2 kids, that's $24,000 or $36,000 a year coming into the household tax-free at a 40% tax bracket. That's probably nine to 12, $15,000 a year, right? That's a pretty nice chunk of change. Once again, for a little bit of paperwork and paying your family and making sure that you are letting them participate in the business. Honestly, as a business owner, you want your kids to participate anyway. It's so good for them to see what you do. It's so good for them to learn and be productive outside of just cleaning up around the house or whatever their regular chores are. So, and then the last thing I would say, for nearly any dentist, it's a good idea to probably have some sort of tax entity structuring. And if you have an LLC that files as an S corporation, or if you're an S corporation, which is what we see most commonly, you can. There's 2 kinds of money that you get. You get your W-2 income,
Mm-hmm.
but then you also get your money as a business owner, and they're taxed differently. And
I
the big thing to know is the money that you get as, I'll call it, business income versus your W-2, you don't pay the 7.5% self-employment tax on that, right? And there's some nuance to that. But the bottom line is you want to pay yourself a fair salary,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some rules around that. But then take as much as you can as dividends as the business owner. You'll pay lower taxes on those dollars, and that can make a really big difference for you as a business owner every year. So just those couple of key things could be worth, anywhere from 5 or 10 all the way up to 30 or $40,000, depending on how far you go with them and how many kids you have and all of that. So those can be a pretty big tax savings, just those couple of key things.
And to your point, and I think that a lot of people, a lot of my clients, they're the first business owners in their household. Their husbands
Mm-hmm.
or their spouses are the ones that, like myself, my husband has the 9 to 5 job, and he's the one that provides the medical insurance, and I am the one taking on the risks. So he's got all of his faith in myself and my business. And a lot of my clients have a similar
Yep.
structure where my husband wants me to start a practice. I just want to do the dentistry. But we have this business. We have 2 small kids, and I want to put them through school. I want to be able to make sure that I build generational wealth. But at the same time, you're you're drawn to these day-to-day operations, and you miss sight of the bigger picture, and
Right.
you are not aware of like something that you can immediately implement that is going to get you closer to that. Because to your point, adding your children to payroll in the short term could be something where you can potentially pay for their dance lessons, or things that you're just funneling the money for immediate needs, but you can
Mm-hmm.
also start to plan for their retirement, right? Like, and you can start doing
Sure.
other things that will help you get closer to being have more leverage than you did, because your parents didn't own a business and you're the very first business owner in your household. So that's something that I'm learning from, and this is why I'm so excited to have this conversation, because as I'm learning, I'm passing it down to my clients and I learn from them as well. So this
Yep.
is why it's so important, like you said, to have a network of a team of advisors that have your best interest at heart and can help you definitely start planning and looking ahead. um, so the next question, are there any like did I miss anything? Are there any tips or no-brainer, tax tips that we have yet to cover?
Yeah. So the first thing I want to say is there's a whole world of tax advantaged investments, where you put money into them and you get tax breaks. There's all kinds of ways to use real estate. There's all kinds of ways to use insurance to create tax-free income. There's a lot of different things that are out there depending on your situation. So if someone tells you, hey, you've checked all the boxes, there's no more way to save taxes, I'm here to tell you that's not right. There are quite a few. Now, it doesn't mean every single one of those is the right fit for you, right? But I know off the top of my head at least a dozen. I recently did a seminar where we went over 17 different ways
Wow.
to get tax breaks that your CPA probably isn't telling you. So there's a ton of them out there, and I'm not pretending I know all of them. I've just, over the last 10 or 15 years, we learn a couple here and a couple there, and we vet them and make sure they work and all of that. But there are a lot more than you think. And we do, for our clients, we, as often as we can, we do a big tax review and kind of go through those things. That brings up a really good point. We're coming to the time of the year where if you're a dentist and you're making good money,
Hmm.
I get calls starting at about Thanksgiving. Everyone's like, I want to be
Thanksgiving.
proactive. It's December 5th. I'm like, sorry, being proactive was 3 or 4 months ago. So we are starting to do tax reviews late August, early September for our clients, because at that point, you're about 9 months through the year, right? And you've had a chance to start seeing, okay, where am I going to end up tax wise by the end of the year? That gives us a couple of months to look at different strategies that are out there, figure out what might be right, get you educated, let you do your due diligence, and then you can execute those and get them done by Thanksgiving instead
Hmm.
of coming in at Thanksgiving and trying to, you know, get everything done in a couple of weeks, especially during the holidays. It's very difficult. It's very frustrating for us and for clients because we want to help. But the problem is, like everybody, no matter how hard we or how often we tell them, they think tax planning happens in December. It happens all year, but really gets serious, I would say September-ish. So if someone wants to do a tax review, I would say in the next month or two, get your kids back in school, and then it's time to do a real tax review and see where you're going to be. That actually gives you time to put together good strategies, more in-depth and thoughtful strategies, not something that's just like last minute, throw it together, because it's a lot of money for you. That's 40% of your income. That's a
Yes,
lot.
that
So
is, yes.
yeah, and the other no-brainer thing that we've done for a lot of dentists in the past 4 or 5 years is research and development credits, right? And this is something that people may have kind of heard of, whispers of. Dentistry falls right down the middle of this because there's so much technology change. There's so many different materials. There's so many different pieces of equipment and different ways of doing things. What you guys do is so specialized and
Hmm.
customizable that the diagnostics it takes and the different approaches to solving the same problem and all the different implant systems and the different clear aligner systems and all the different things that happen as you're testing those, as you're figuring those out, as you're trying to make things more efficient and effective in your business, uh, it's very, very likely, I would say 97, 98% of our dental clients, as long as you're earning a profit, you're probably doing things that create these credits for you and you don't even know it. So that to me is a total no-brainer to find out about for your practice, because it's, for most of our practices, I'd say it's $10,000 to $20,000 a year, and it
Interesting.
probably takes,
So this is research and development credit.
yes, yep,
Awesome.
yep. And the credits have been around since the 80s, so they're not a brand new thing. This isn't some kind of COVID thing. They've been around a really long time, and they've gotten actually better for small business owners in the past 10, 15 years. So it's become more and more popular, especially since 2015 when it became a permanent part of the tax code.
I see.
So we just find that dentists, I mean, the credits were created for manufacturing, and dentistry is like a lot of kind of like little custom manufacturing, lots of little devices that are totally customized to each individual. And there's just a ton of technology and advancement that's happening in that field. So a lot of dentists are just unaware of that, or their CPAs don't know because it is a very specialized part of the tax code. Um, And so I think for most people, that's a no-brainer. And if I would say, if there's anything you're going to investigate, I would start there. And we'd love to tell you about it. We do free estimates and the
Of
whole thing.
course. Definitely. One last question before any last thoughts that I want to ask you. A lot of my clients always ask, how can I create, like, when is it a good time for us to provide incentives for the team or bonus systems? um, do you have any insights or any tips around how to use, if you're making a good, let's say you're being profitable for the year, are there any
Mhm.
strategies that the doctors can implement as their business is growing to incentivize the team that helps them also with tax incentives?
There are some things. I won't get into it. There is a plan that's out there that helps you to use some wellness programs for health benefits that can actually create tax credits for you that you can then reinvest into things like short-term and long-term disability, life insurance benefits, those kinds of things. But it's being paid for out of your tax savings, and it
Oh,
also saves the employee some tax money that they normally would be paying. So their check at the end of the month is the same as it normally would be, but there's usually a couple $100s left over that can go into some sort of benefit plan. So there is something like that, um, without going into all the details because it's very, very nuanced and different from practice to practice. But the other thing is, I think there's more than just financial benefits, recognition, understanding company culture and values. Like a lot of these studies came out during COVID that kind of said most people would take less money if they
mhm,
were in a culture that had a value fit for them and they felt
mhm.
like their work matters, especially with young people. You know, the the idea of doing work that makes a difference that actually helps people has become incredibly important to people. And so I think thinking in those terms also is really powerful as a benefit. It doesn't go to the
Definitely.
financial bottom line, but there's something I talk about a lot called return on emotion, not just return on investment. In other words, how you feel about life has a value, right? The whole point in
100%.
wanting more money is to feel better. If you can create a workplace environment where people feel valued, where people feel like they're helping, really genuinely helping clients and patients, making a difference in their lives, there's a tangible value to that. So on top of benefit plans that are 401ks and IRAs and some of these kinds of things, you can actually do a lot with just investing in them. One of the things I do as a benefit to my team is I'll pay them up to 30 minutes a day for them to do personal development type reading. It doesn't even have to be done
That
with
is
our business.
amazing. I love that. That
Yeah, so
is
and here's the thing, the business is going to benefit from them being better humans, right? Whether they're healthier, whether their mindset's better, whether their relationships better. That's not why I do it. And my team can tell, hey, this is a person that cares about me. They want to see me do better. There's a value to that, right? It's a value to you. It's a value to them. Everybody wins from it. But things like that are kind of intangible, but make a big difference as well. So we do benefits in my business for our employees and such, but I find that the one that a lot of people miss is creating a truly wonderful culture, investing in people so that they realize you care about them and value them. There's a lot to that, and people don't take it lightly.
I
So
agree.
that's my answer.
No, I mean, I love it. I think that there's so much to learn from you, and wish we had more time. You've been very generous, and I want to be respectful of that. How do people find you? I know I'm going to make sure that I include your information on the description. Anybody, you can leave it in the comments. We'll respond to you as soon as we get a chance. But what are some of the things that you would want to help doctors with, and how can they find you?
Yeah. Well, they can always find me at biglifefinancial.com. You'll notice it's not called Big Money Financial because we're really about quality of life, not just about dollars. Usually dollars are aligned with that, but ultimately that's the goal. if you go to that, there's a button up in the corner that says work with us. If you just click that, you can schedule directly on my calendar, and I'd be happy to talk with you about research and development credits or the benefit plan thing or any of the other things that we've talked about here. And we've only scratched the surface. But yeah, so biglifefinancial.com. And then I think anything we can do to help, we're here. We have all kinds of different things. Just like us working with you, Maritza, if I saw someone who needed help with starting their practice, we're always looking to associate ourselves with good people. And so I would say, hey, I know somebody who's good. You got to make sure that she's the right fit for you, but I'll make recommendations. We make recommendations to CPAs, to financial advisors, to estate planning people. Like, we've really done our best to build a network, but truly only a network of people that I think are doing a really great job. And I've gone through hundreds of people over the years to find the dozen or so that are like our real go-tos, because there's just a lot of people out there who are kind of going through and doing what they were trained to do. But we're really looking for people who serve you, like I said, as a high income earner, but maybe not like the elite of the elite. We're looking for people who really understand business owners, who understand people at your income level and who are dealing with the kinds of things that you've got to put up with, tax-wise, financially, investment-wise, etc.
This has been such an amazing time having this discussion with you, and again, I think that everyone will definitely, as they're watching and as they watch the replay, resonate with everything you just shared. I am so honored and so grateful that you've taken the time to have this conversation for me, with me, because I feel the same way. This is becoming a world where there are a lot of resources. Everyone has a strategy for helping you get more money, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to the people, and not the money.
Mhm.
Like, your business is called Big Life Financial. It's about life. It's about being surrounded by people that you enjoy being around with, your family, your clients, your employees, your coworkers. So all I have to say is thank you so very much for your time today. I look forward to staying in touch with you and continuing to learn from you. So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Everyone, we will have Derick's information so that you can reach out to him and schedule your free consultation. It's definitely going to change your life. And it's right before that last quarter of the year, so that
Yep.
you're not one of these late comers in November, trying to resolve all of your, tax things and planning. So, Derick, thank you so much. Any last word, any last piece of advice before we wrap up?
I think the last thing I would say is, it really is about quality of life. So if more money is creating a lower quality of life for you, that's a bad trade. You should always consider that, because the whole point of the money is to make your life better, not worse. And I see some people get that a little out of whack. So that's it. Parting thoughts.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. It's been amazing. Thank
You
you.
too.
Bye
Bye bye.
bye.